controversy that's brewing between the United States and Brazil. The White House has condemned Brazilian President Luiz Inacio Lula da Silva's recent comments accusing the United States of encouraging the war in Ukraine. Lula made the remarks after returning from a visit to China over the weekend, where he called on the United States to prioritize peace in Ukraine. And during a meeting with Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Brazil, Lula was thanked by Lavrov for Brazil's efforts. In response, U.S. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby accused Lula of parroting the Russian and Chinese propaganda. What did U.S. mean when they were talking about Russian and Chinese propaganda? Let me have Ray Locker, senior journalist, joining me live from Washington, D.C., weigh in on that. Thank you, Ray, for joining in. Now, the Brazilian president has said that the United States needs to stop encouraging war and start talking about peace. Many are asking what's problematic about this statement.
Well, what's problematic is Russia started the war. Ukraine is defending itself. Any talk of reaching some kind of peace deal, basically between Russia and Ukraine, would keep Russia's gains there in place and basically telling Ukraine to stop defending itself. That's why all these calls for peace kind of ring hollow.
Right. Ray, why is an immediate ceasefire not in the best interest of Ukraine, let alone Russia?
Well, right. I mean, this is not totally not in the best interest of Ukraine. They're fighting for their lives. They were invaded last year by Russia, who basically has its entire army fighting in Ukraine, indiscriminately killing civilians, using prisoner soldiers in human waves to try to make a difference on the battlefield. It's not working. It's a humanitarian disaster. It's an ecological disaster. It helps nobody. And this was all started by Vladimir Putin. So any talk of reaching a peace deal doesn't really make a lot of sense. And I think that's what U.S. officials were reacting to with the first iteration of Lula's comments. He's since walked some of them back.
It's interesting how the U.S. has clubbed Chinese propaganda along with Russian propaganda, and that's what brings me to my next question. How do you view China's role in this war? Because just recently, China has denied supplying drones to Russia as far as this war is concerned. But on the battlefield, as we all know it, Ukraine has discovered Chinese drones over there. At the same time, we've seen Chinese president also float a so-called peace plan. Do you see some sort of duplicitous standards being maintained by China?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's totally what they're doing. They're saying one thing and doing another. I mean, look, the United States is not a pure actor in world affairs. We have a long and controversial history. But in this situation, I think U.S. intentions and actions are fairly clear. We've opposed the invasion. We're supporting Ukraine. Everybody in the world knows it. You know, China says one thing, does another. And remember, China has its own similar history with, seizing disputed territory. When you look at Tibet, that's long been controversial. Many people think of Tibet as an independent nation. China doesn't. And they probably view the situation between Russia and Ukraine through the similar lens.
What explains this huddle that we are seeing between China, Russia and the BRICS nations? I see India is, of course, holding its own ground and walking that diplomatic tightrope. But having said that, we've also seen on the other front, as far as Ukraine is concerned, that the US-made Patriot missile has reached Ukraine, and Ukraine is now expected to begin its counteroffensive. Does that indicate some sort of unease within the BRICS nations, barring India?
Well, I think all these countries are looking to chart their own role in the world. They're big countries with large aspirations. I mean, Brazil is a significant world player, and they're trying to carve out their own role in world affairs, trying to be a force to be reckoned with. Lula has a long record as a person like that. And I think that's what they're trying to do. I think India is trying to do the same thing too. China as well. I mean, these are large countries. India is set to be the most populous nation on the face of the earth. I mean, why does it always want to be under the US umbrella or the Russian umbrella as it has been in the past? And so every nation is looking for its own advantage and trying to, you know, further its best interest while also trying to make a difference in this war.
No, but I mean, in India's defense, it's always maintained that non-aligned stance, and even with the war, it has been so. I'm sure you'll agree with that. But what explains Brazil's support when we look at the entire war playing out?
Well, I mean, Lula is a person of the left, and I guess you could still consider Russia a nation of the left, given its history with the Soviet Union. So maybe there's some kind of relationship that way. Um, I don't really know why he's doing what he's doing in Ukraine. It seems naive to me, but I don't understand everything that he's doing. He certainly doesn't consult with me.
When you say that, before I let you go, Ray, does Brazil stand to lose out in this fallout with the United States?
Probably not. I think Lula will backtrack enough to give himself some kind of cover. Look, I think U.S. officials are glad that Lula won the recent election there, and we got rid of Jair Bolsonaro, who was, a total wild card, far less stable than Lula is. So I think we'll find a way to be friends again and further our own mutual interests.
Is this also a step in the sense to de-dollarize, as we've been talking about? As far as the BRICS are concerned, there's been a lot of talk in the offing to de-dollarize. Do you see this happening now?
No, I don't. I think still the dollar is the world's de facto, single currency. And I don't know, what takes its place. Maybe something else does, but I don't see that happening anytime soon.
All right. Many thanks to you, Ray Locker, for joining in on this show. It's been a pleasure to have you here.